In now, former acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker, Newsmax analyst. Great to have you with us, Matthew.
Hey, John. Good to be with you and Bianca.
So why do you think the Justice Department is fighting so hard to keep this affidavit sealed? And also, what's your reaction to the FBI interviewing Cipollone here and his deputy?
Yeah, so what I see happening in this case is, that obviously they have a strategy to investigate what they allege are these crimes. We saw a little bit of it in the search warrant. We saw a little bit of it in what they recovered from Mar-a-Lago. But obviously the affidavit is going to be the roadmap to the investigation. It's going to talk about the witnesses that they've interviewed, the probable cause that a crime has been committed. And so that affidavit is very important. The interesting thing also is, remember, this hearing tomorrow is being brought by the New York Times and other press outlets wanting to release the affidavit. It's being defended by the Department of Justice, who doesn't want the release at all. It's going to be very interesting to see how that hearing goes tomorrow. Yeah,
the New York Times. I mean, everybody wants to know what the justification for this raid was. And going back to the timeline here, Cipollone and this deputy interviewed back in spring. We know that the feds had already been there, and then Merrick Garland waiting a couple of weeks. How do they make the case that this was such a urgent mission that they had to get done at nighttime on Monday?
Yeah, so both Patrick Philbin and Pat Cipollone interviewed for the January 6th committee. And a lot of people, including myself, believe that this is adjacent to that investigation in one way or another. But, they were very careful to not talk about things that were either attorney-client privileged or executive privileged. So there wasn't too much that Cipollone and Philbin talked about. In this criminal investigation, my sense is, since it's ancillary and adjacent to the January 6th investigation that DOJ is also pursuing, is I think they were probably very careful in the information that they were able to share. And obviously their information is not that recent. They hadn't been to Mar-a-Lago. They hadn't looked at the contents of these alleged boxes and these documents. But we're going to see, I think, ultimately, the predication and what they believe, what the Department of Justice believes was the reason to pursue this search warrant, which, as we've talked about before, John, is unprecedented, extraordinary, and I think history is going to show probably was draconian in its need at that time.
Now, if this really is about January 6th, and it has all the markings of that, but they're trying to say it was about the Presidential Records Act and then about declassified information, everything seems to kind of focus back to January 6th. But do you think that they did this under false pretense?
I'm not ready to say that yet, John, because there's just a few more things I would like to see, including the affidavit. What I would tell you is, while they can't grab anything that's not covered by the warrant, this warrant was very broad. And based on them scooping up 3 passports of President Trump, you can expect that they were scooping up everything. Go back to your beginning of the show. You talked about how the search being broadcast essentially on TV for the Trump team to watch. They watched the methods and means with which the FBI acquired this information that they took a week ago. And so that's, I think, obviously we're seeing a little tease of that, but it's very clear that they were indiscriminate in what they grabbed. And, I can only speculate that it's in hopes of supporting not only this one case, but also the January 6th investigation.
We also wanted to ask you about former Vice President Mike Pence today at an event in New Hampshire. He apparently said that he would consider testifying before the January 6th committee. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Mike Pence, obviously, for 4 years was a very loyal vice president to President Trump. It ended on a very bad note. And Pence is going to have to find his path in this. I will tell you that based on what happened politically to Liz Cheney last night, if I'm Mike Pence, I would just be a little concerned about trying to cooperate with the January 6th committee, since it is a one-sided, show trial made for TV special. But at the same time, Vice President Pence, in my experience, is a decent and honorable man, and he'll make decisions based on, kind of his own code.
Interesting timing, of course. Matt, Bianca here. We wanted to ask you about Rudy Giuliani's court appearance today in Georgia. We have the video from just a few hours ago. And Giuliani, with Vernon Jones, who was just on our program yesterday, swarmed here. This is playing out, as you know, outside the Fulton County Courthouse in Atlanta. Giuliani was not allowed to go in by Zoom. He had to appear in person. Of course, now he's saying he's a target as being one of Trump's former attorneys in the state's 2020 election probe. Matt, we know Jenna Ellis also been ordered to appear in court, but it's important to note to the viewers here that this is civil. So what do you think they're trying to do, and what can Giuliani even say if this is attorney-client privilege?
Well, obviously this is to embarrass and harass anyone that, tried to work on the 2020 campaign and, sort of making sure that every legal vote was counted and that fraud was minimized or eliminated. And it is a chilling effect ultimately when not only this state, local DA is trying to play national politics, but also, you have what's going on in New York with the state attorney general playing politics as well. And this is why everywhere I go, I talk about that not only is there an appearance of a two-tiered system of justice, but there is an actual two-tiered system of justice where people associated with President Trump are harassed and interviewed and prosecuted, and search warrants are executed, and at the same time people on the left, and there's a long list of them, I'll just name a few, Hillary Clinton, Hunter Biden, so many others, don't seem to pay any consequence for their activities.
And we saw Vernon Jones just go into the courtroom alongside Rudy. He was on our show yesterday. I want to show you a little bit of what he was saying about the investigation. Sort of echoes your stance as well, Matt.
If you're a target and you come in and tell the truth, and they get a witness that will come in and tell a lie, well, they're going to say you're the one that's telling the lie and the witness is telling the truth, and they got you. Many people who support the president, they have been subjected to prosecutorial abuse. It's happening at the state level and at the federal level.
So Americans are watching this. They're hearing Vernon. They're hearing you here on our broadcast. And what can be done? Is there any type of, pushback? Giuliani, Jenna Ellis, what can they use as far as due process in this situation?
That they are honest and truthful. And that, as we've always heard growing up and in our lives, the truth will set you free. But obviously they need to also fight and fight hard and push back on this, prosecutorial, expansive investigations that are just trying to harass and embarrass people. I mean, Fulton County has a lot of challenges, whether it's a significant crime problem or, quite frankly, an unsecure voting system that needs to be tightened up. There's plenty of problems that this local DA could work on to make her citizens safer and freer, but instead, obviously, they're going after people like Rudy Giuliani.
It brings me back to something that Bill Maher said this past weekend. He said Donald Trump is the luckiest guy alive. It's either that or these prosecutors are just that bad. You think all of the legal force thrown at Donald Trump over the last couple of years, something would stick. Nothing has stuck yet. So either he's innocent or they're just really bad prosecutors or something, but an enormous amount of time and attention focused on trying to catch Donald Trump.
Taxpayer money.
Yeah, a lot more money, tens of millions of dollars, I think, just reallocated to focusing on January 6th in that committee. Matthew Whitaker, great to see you. We appreciate your time and your insight.
All right, good to see you both. Thank you.
Thank you.